Tonight, President Trump will travel about 1.5 miles down Pennsylvania Avenue from the White House to the Capitol, where he'll give a nationally televised address to a joint session of Congress. It's an opportunity to outline his vision for the country.
This budget will be a public safety and national security budget, and it will include a historic increase in defense spending to rebuild the depleted military. This defense spending increase will be offset and paid for by finding greater savings and efficiencies across the federal government. We're going to do more with less.
Trump is expected to propose sweeping reductions to the EPA and other federal agencies to fund those priorities. Medicare and Social Security are reportedly off the table. A big challenge for the president is building consensus about reforming Obamacare. Yesterday, Trump huddled with healthcare executives about rolling back universal coverage.
Now, I have to tell you, it's an unbelievably complex subject. Nobody knew that health care could be so complicated.
Not me. Actually, a few people may take exception with that statement. The president is also expected to talk about investing in infrastructure, tax reform. This morning, he talked about his job performance so far.
In terms of achievement, I think I'd give myself an A, because I think I've done great things, but I don't think I and my people, I don't think we've explained it well enough to the American public. I think I get an A in terms of what I've actually done, but in terms of messaging, I'd give myself a C or a C+. All
right, how are you going to change that then?
Well, maybe I change it during the speech.
But Trump will be speaking to a somewhat skeptical audience. While 44% of Americans approve of his job performance, 50% don't. Tonight's speech is certainly an opportunity to build some momentum. Joining me on whether they think the president can do that are our dueling treasurers and former candidates for governor. The Democrat is Shannon O'Brien. Nice to see you, Shannon. And the former Republican and now a Trump supporter is Joe Malone. Good to see you. Joe, how patient are Republicans going to be on putting meat on the bones? What's the replacement for Obamacare? What's the tax reform? How are we paying for the wall? Can sort of vague policy things enough to get him through tonight and have Republicans still be happy?
Well, tonight will be a political speech, as most budget-oriented speeches are, and then the devil is in the details. But in the first month that he's been there, Republicans are happy with him. Now, there's a Hillary Clinton voter out there, President Company included, who are not happy with him.
What are you talking about? Republicans happy? The Freedom Caucus is up in arms about all the Obamacare proposals, saying they are not hot enough. But there's dispute over the tax things, and a lot of people are upset. I mentioned the wall. Who's paying the $14 billion?
But, Jim, think about it. That's why people have been kicking the can down the road for the last 10, 12 years, because these aren't easy issues.
But is he going to keep kicking them tonight for another hour?
No, he's taking them on.
Is this going to be an optimistic or one of those dystopian things like the inauguration was? What's your sense?
According to the people who've been out there, kind of previewing the speech, they say it's going to be optimistic. So we'll
Democrat, one of the things that drives me nuts about these events, and this is...
And by the way, I haven't laughed once since I've been here, so I want to get a little credit for that.
Both sides of this thing. The Republicans are going to be like Jacks in the box, jumping up and down, just like the Democrats did for Obama. Democrats are going to sit on their hands. Is anything going to make him happy? If he announces $1 trillion for infrastructure and how to pay for it, if he talks about paid parental leave like he did on the campaign, protecting Social Security and Medicare, which he vowed to do, are the Democrats going to give him any credit for anything, or it's just say no to it all?
I think that they have to be careful that they don't just sit on their hands the entire night. There are some issues that he will talk about tonight that they will like. They will like the fact that he wants to increase spending on infrastructure. But again, the devil is in the details. If it's just tax credits and no real expenditure, that is a plan that makes absolutely no sense at all. If he talks about protecting Social Security and Medicare, I think that that's important because there are many Republican members of Congress who would like to undercut that, turn that into an underfunded, state-run program.
Do you think we're going to have another moment like this fairly historical one from just a few years ago?
The reforms I'm proposing would not apply to those who are here illegal. It's not true.
Okay, that's Obama. In 2009, that was Joe Wilson, South Carolina congressman. You lie is what he said, and then he went home and raised tens of thousands of dollars on you lie. I would argue, I don't have any scientific basis for this, that as much contempt as a lot of Republicans had for Barack Obama, multiply it by about 1,000, and that's how much contempt a ton of your fellow Democrats have for Donald Trump. Are they going to be able to control themselves tonight?
I hope they can. I've said this on this show before. I think it's very important that they not become, Republican opposition 2.0, that they have to pick their spots, that they have to resist, they have to be oppositional to the crazy things that he has been proposing. But I think that a lot of it has to do with the tone. I would be very embarrassed if someone did do something as embarrassing as what Congressman
What if he says
Wilson
things
did.
that are just totally untrue, like he has a penchant for doing? Well, what do they do then? Just sit there?
I think that they may be developing some strategies, I don't know, in terms of a more polite way to get that message across.
Can we talk about Obamacare just for a couple of more seconds here? First of all, here's Chuck Schumer, one of your favorite people, Democratic leader in the Senate. This is him yesterday.
The discord in their party will grow as Republicans turn to Washington after this last week of angry town halls. I believe the odds are very high. We will keep the ACA.
And here's a McClatchy-Marist poll. 20% let it stand, 38% change it so it does more. That's 58%. Only 7% change it so it does less, 31% repeal it completely. It's only 38%. In all truth, they have no idea what to do here, right? I mean, no idea. They can't, it's the proverbial dog catching the car. I know it's tired already, but they caught the car and now they don't know what to do with it, right?
But Jim, you got to start with the premise that it is flawed. And if it isn't fixed, it's going to die under its own weight.
Okay, let's assume everybody agrees on that,
right,
whether they do or not. Do they have any idea? Do Republicans from the president have any idea how to do it and pay for it?
I think the challenge is there are several Republican proposals that they've got to kind of find compromise on so that they can get some legislation passed. But just tort reform alone is something that they never took up before. They need to take it up.
Are you smiling or smirking at him? I can't tell.
I am smirking.
You're
It's
smirking.
official.
Yeah.
It's
Why are you
official.
smirking?
I'm smirking because, first of all, for the fact that Donald Trump said for the first time, wow, this stuff is really hard. I mean, complicated. I mean, it's crazy. And second, the Republicans have had over 6 years to come up with an alternative, and they still don't have one that they can agree upon.
But again, it's a case of, how the legislature works. You can have 3 or 4 different plans, and then they've got to hash it out and figure out what is the plan.
You really believe that or not? You really believe it?
I do. The other thing here is if Donald Trump is just taken on a policy basis as opposed to his style, which is a bombastic style and offensive to a lot of people, the policies that he is espousing, they're solid policies, particularly if you're a right of Senate person. And one of them is you cannot continue to have premiums grow at the rate that they're growing now. It's going to bankrupt the country.
Well, but if he doesn't have high premiums and high copays, how is he going to pay for all these benefits he wants to keep when he says he's getting rid of the individual mandate? The way you do it is provide health insurance, but then make sure people can't afford to use it because, again, the cost of using it is so extravagant.
And you know what? And the burden is on him and the Republicans to find those answers and to move forward.
Let's move back to the Democrats. 73-year-old former governor of Kentucky, Steve Beshear, I didn't even know his first name until I looked it up today. He's going to give the response. Because apparently he was a big embracer of the Affordable Care Act. Trump won his state, but the Affordable Care Act...
And the Affordable Care Act has made a big difference. We've talked a lot about
However,
Kentucky.
For people who are saying, when are we going to see a new face in the Democratic Party who's not a septuagenarian or an octogenarian? I mean, really, is
You're
this...
ageist, aren't you?
Well, I get a lot of criticism for that, but I mean, would you not agree?
You want to know something? No, I don't agree, and I'll tell you why. Because I think that we need to speak to those audiences that a lot of people have criticized Hillary Clinton for forgetting. Especially in Kentucky. I believe that, and I think that she actually ran a better campaign than some people agree with. But one of the big mistakes that she made in terms of her messaging was saying she was going to put coal miners out of work. Well, now, and what she meant was
she actually went on to
technology.
Say, she did say that,
and she
but never got clear.
She was saying the right thing, but that came out of her mouth, and she lost badly there. Kentucky is one of those states that will disproportionately be harmed. Its people will be harmed by repealing the Affordable Care Act. I think he's the right messenger, especially given that state.
Are people going to be any less divided when they turn off the television at 10 o'clock tonight than they are right now?
The vast majority of Americans are very, very divided. There's a polarized situation. There's a lot of reasons for it.
So the answer is no.
It didn't start with Donald Trump, by the way, and but going to Shannon.
No, he just exacerbated
But also,
it.
too, the Democrats have played this identity politics game. You heard Jimmy Carter the other day where he said we told the white people we weren't even interested in talking to them because we got caught up in all these different groups.
Truth in that,
and that is why I believe that Governor Beshear is a very good spokesperson tonight.
I take back everything I said about Governor Beshear. Nice to see you, Shannon O'Brien, Joe Malone.
Good to see you.
Take care.
Good to see you, Shannon.
Thank you.
Later, they're shaking hands.